Hello and welcome. I'm back with another What's on My Bookshelf video. I have had a little look at the calendar and I can see that we have Diwali falling this month. So I've got a couple of books on that. I can also see Remembrance this month. So I've got a couple of books on that. I've got a lot of books on nature this month as the leaves are turning and the weather's turning, nights are drawing in. So there's loads to talk about there. And I have chosen a lot of books with just an autumnal palette while we still have those autumn colours outside. So let's dive on in. So starting off with the really specific to November this year, and I can see that Diwali falls on the 1st of November this year. So I went to the library and I picked up a couple of books about Diwali. I've got two here to show you. I'm going to start with this one. I'm so excited about this book. It's Diwali by Sital Goreza Chapman. And it follows a little girl through her Diwali celebrations, what she does with her family. Really sweet little story. And then it goes on to have some non-fiction information. So it's got a couple of bits about the different myths and where they're celebrated in the world, because Diwali is such an old festival that depending on where you are in the world, you might have a different idea of where the myth comes from. So it's got a bit of information about that. It's also got a little craft page for the clay lamps, which you can do. And it's got another little craft here, which is design your own rangoli, which is kind of like a mandala. And it's got a little bit of information about that. Then it's got a recipe for a yogurt, which is just lovely. Oh, and it's got a quiz. So having that is just so accessible and so lovely. And then I noticed that there was this little badge here, which made me think that it was part of a range. And I had a little look online, and it is. They have got quite a few different versions of this. Got one about Eid and Hanukkah and Christmas and Easter too. I think there's one for the Lunar New Year as well. I'm definitely going to invest in a couple of these. I'm really excited about this book. I love the cover here. It's so bright and lovely. So I'm very excited about this. And then I picked up Is Diwali. Now this one, similar sort of situation, follows a little girl's story of Diwali. She gets asked by her teacher to sort of do a bit of a presentation on it, and she struggles to share what Diwali is about. This one is by Raiga. And then at the end, similarly to that, the previous one, it's got a bit of a non-fiction page. And then it's also got the story of Rama and Sita, which is one of the myths of where Diwali comes from. So that's really lovely. And then this one has got some gorgeous end papers too. So excited about these two books. Really excited to show the boys a little bit about Diwali because I've not done that yet. Moving on now to Remembrance. We have Remembrance in November, and I've picked up these three books. The first one I'm going to show you is Where the Poppies Now Grow. This one is a lovely rhyming poem. It follows two boys playing war games at the start, and then they get called up to war, and then it shows them at the end. So it follows their whole life. But the illustrations in this one are really quite harrowing. So there's a lot to talk about there, which you can tailor to however old your child is. And just really, really gorgeous illustrations and a story about peace. And then this one, Low of the Sun by the same author, Hilary Robinson and Martin Impey. This one talks about the animals that are used during World War One. It's got a similar sort of rhyming poem, which it adds a line each page of the poem. There, the end paper. It's got a little map of the song, and it's got some information here to tell you how many animals were used. So it says that over 50,000 dogs, more than 100,000 pigeons, approximately 8 million horses and mules, along with elephants, camels, cats, goats, canaries, bears, a baboon, a golden eagle, a fox, rabbits, chicken, even glowworms, were used on all sides during World War One. And then it says they had no choice. Once again, gorgeous illustrations, comes to talk about. And then the final one in that sort of series is Peace Lily, which follows a little girl who she watches her friends go to war, and then she joins the war effort. So this one's really nice and talks about sort of the women's war effort. And then I love these end papers on this one because it's like a little scrapbook, and I just think I like to scrapbook. I think it's really girly. So yeah, there's the illustrations for that one. Really nice. It shows how she finds her husband. He's one of the soldiers. So that's a really nice, sweet story. And then they're the only sort of specific to November ones that I have this month. But then I do have some more autumnal ones. So I have The Autumn Story by Jill Barklam. I love the Brambley Hedge book. I especially love the detail in the illustrations. They are absolutely gorgeous. They are a bit of a longer story, so you could do it over a couple of nights, I suppose, if your kids can't sit through. But yeah, they're lovely. In this one, Primrose gets lost and they send out a search party. It's really sweet. And then the next one I have to show you is Autumn by Shirley Hughes from the Nursery Collection. I really like Shirley Hughes' stories. The illustrations are so good. And I really think she sort of captures an ordinary day in the life of a child. The things she talks about, writes about people at the pond. There's no sort of bells and whistles to it. I think most children can probably relate to a lot of the stuff that happens in a Shirley Hughes story. My favourite page of this one is Fireworks. I think it's gorgeous. I love this illustration of the fireworks. I think that captures it so lovely. So there's that. And then the next one I have, which is Autumn by Gerda Muller. This one's a little wordless board book. I swear every time I look at this book, I see something different. There's just so much going on, especially on these full page illustrations. And they're really nice to just have a flick through. The next few I have are some storybooks. So I have After the Storm by Nick Butterworth. This one's a Percy the Park Keeper story. I love Percy the Park Keeper. In this one, a tree falls down and it's a home to a lot of animals, and he has to rebuild it. So sweet. Let me just show you some of the illustrations on this one. So we'll be reading this one. It's very autumnal in its illustration. And then there is this one, The Wonder Tree. And in this one, the little owl gets ever so concerned when the tree loses its leaves. And the mummy owl sort of explains that everyone goes through this. So this one's a really nice one, talking about the leaves falling down. That is by Teresa Harpy. But that's a nice one. And then I've got this one here, which is Who Makes a Forest? And this is a story about a couple of kids that are on a walk with their grandpa, and they have all these ideas about where a forest comes from. And then this one has got some non-fiction pages at the end as well. So they're really nice to sit and have a go through. And then I have this story, which is 5-minute nature stories. These are non-fiction stories as well. Look at those end papers. Gorgeous. So there's quite a few little stories in here. This one's written by Gabby Dorney. And I'll sort of show you the setup for this one. So you'll get the story. So this one's about the frog's life cycle. So it tells you a little story about it. The illustrations are very nice. And then you get a really sort of factual page about it, which is lovely. And there's quite a few stories in here. Just see the contents for you. So there's all of those stories in there. It's really nice. And then I've got Storm by Sam Usher. This one's about a little boy and his granddad going to fly a kite. And these are just so imaginative. Let me get to it starts off sort of normal, just flying the kite. And then it sort of goes a little bit wild. And they're very nice. So that one's good. And then these two stories are about a tree, and it sort of follows the whole life cycle of the whole year of the tree. But it does, this one particularly is focusing on leaves falling down. This little tree gets ever so concerned because the older tree, we can't see him anymore, and he's really worried about the leaves falling down. The illustrations in this book are so gorgeous. They are just lovely. So you can see that it follows the full year, but it just feels autumnal to me. Just talking about life cycles and the year slowing down, it just feels autumnal. And similarly to this one, tree follows the full year. It's got summer there, and then into autumn, and then into winter, and it's got these cutaway pages. This one has. You can see here the cutaway. So that's nice to have a little peek through this owl. This one's by Britta Teckendrum. So that's those two. Now, the last I have in the pile are not necessarily autumn books. They just have autumnal illustrations. So if you were just reading the story, you could read it any time of year. But if you really want to talk about the story, you can definitely tailor it to autumn. So I've got The Boy, the Troll and the Chalk by Annie Booth. This is a lovely little story about a boy reaching out to another boy and showing him a lot of kindness when the boy hasn't really had that from the other children. So this is a lovely little story. The next one I have is The Circles in the Sky by Cole James Mountford. This story, a bit of a sad one. The little fox's friend dies, and it's just talking about that and looking for him in the circle of the stars in the sky. So it's a really nice book, and the illustrations in this one are so nice and just a little bit different, and it shows the of getting angry and dealing with grief. This is a really nice little story, but definitely something to bear in mind if that's not something you want to talk about with your kids. And then this is a similar sort of one. It's called The Cloud Forest. It's by Victoria Turnbull. And about this little boy who does a lot of gardening with his umpa, which is like a grandfather figure. And one day his grandfather, well, the umpa, dies, and it's just about him keeping that connection with him, and he can think of him every time he does gardening. So that's a really nice little story, but again, something to bear in mind if it's not really your thing. Again, just this sort of colour palette is very autumnal to me, and also the theme of just like life cycles. It feels autumnal. It feels like a good time to talk about it with your kids. And then these last ones are just really autumnal in colour. So this one is Imelda and the Goblin King, and that's by Bryony May Smith. This is a cheeky little story about a little girl who tricks the Goblin King. And just the colour palette makes me think of autumn, so it just looks really nice on the autumn bookshelf. Also, I suppose, with Halloween just gone, goblins, it kind of is a little bit Halloween-y. This next one I have is The Legend of the First Unicorn. I picked this up from the library and just looks autumnal to me. Gorgeous end papers there. Yeah, that was turning up the leaves. Feels autumnal, so I wanted to give that a read. Then I have The Girl Who Noticed Everything by Jane Porter. This one is about a little girl who is asking a lot of questions and noticing a lot of things, and her dad's sort of saying, shush, 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 shush. But it turns out that she's the only person in the park that notices this old woman who's looking for something, and then she notices that there's a bird that looks out of place up a tree, and she puts it together, and it just shows that she's a little detective in the making. So a really nice story about maybe letting your children just explore their interests, I guess. A really nice little story there. And again, it's just got the falling trees and little girl with her mittens. So that's a really nice one. And the last book I have to show you is called The Night Lunch. And it's by Eric Fan. I've read a couple of different stories by the Fan brothers, and I really like them. This one just looks gorgeous. And it just looks like magical and imaginative. So I'm really excited to read this one. I picked it up from the library. And yeah, just feels a bit autumnal to me. With the owl and just like the dark on the palette. So yeah, very excited about those this month. It's sort of a filler month for me because I've just had one of my Halloween stories, which I really enjoy. And then there's Harry's birthday at the start, and then just sort of the last 2 weeks of November just feel like pre-December, I guess. So it's a bit of a weird month. Nevertheless, I'm so excited to have those Diwali books. But again, they're the start of November, so it just feels like it's going to be a bit of a slog to get through. But I'm sure I will enjoy it nonetheless. So thank you for watching and bearing with me. And I hope that you got some good ideas as to what to read for your children this month. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.